Don't hate me, but I have German blood, and my body responds very nicely to working out. So I like it.
Oh my! Welcome to the Wilmington Entrepreneur Podcast, where we sit down with the best to learn about building, growing, maintaining, and mastering business and life.
I just kind of roll through exactly what I need to do each day. Today was a kind of a different one. I just got back from Cancun, where I shot a wedding for 5 days down there.
Man, poor guy.
Yeah, well,
that's awful.
It's a tough place to work.
you look tan.
Tough place to work. Awesome. All-inclusive places are yes. So I'm also detoxing at the same time.
which is why the home gym is perfect.
But all good. All good.
Atone from your sins. I love it.
I had to wheel through. They call it calling, but essentially calling is going through all the photos that you get from a wedding, and picking out the ones that you feel you want to edit. Mm-hmm. That's the first process, in the editing process. So I took over 10,000 photos that a fellow colleague and we shot. Phenomenal 5 days, freaking awesome, and whittled it down to just over 2,000. So 2,000 is what I'm going to start working on now.
Wow.
So it took me about 4 hours to do that this morning. Yeah.
All right, man. I don't know how you have time to even come in here and talk with me, man. Holy cow. Well, thank you for coming and welcome to the 4th episode of the Wilmington Entrepreneur Podcast. Today, I am pumped to have TJ Drechsel with us here on the show. Wilmington Entrepreneur Podcast is the goal here is to be your source of information and advice and on insights on starting, growing a business, really starting anything. And we're really trying to focus here on the Wilmington area. We've got amazing local Wilmington business owner TJ here. TJ is an established local photographer, most known for his local landscape work. Even here in our office, there's some of his work hanging up in the conference rooms, and it is top notch. The background on my computer is a photo that TJ took. He also does weddings and events, and also some people don't even know this, that he has owned and operated a successful painting business for many years, and he also co-owns a local lifestyle brand here called Bow Candy USA. So TJ, thank you for coming on, man.
Thank you, brother. I greatly appreciate it.
Did I cover everything? Did I cover the highlights?
I'm sure there's much a lot
more
in there, man.
I know we're going to get to talk
Once you
about
get to that mindset, it's just, you just float all over. But no, I greatly appreciate the invite. I'm always inspired by your energy level, man. Just how you handle life, being on the up, it's a lot easier, I find, to be positive in this world than to be negative. And you're one of the positive guys out there. And when you hollered, I was like, hell yeah, I'm down. So
thanks, man. Yes. That means a lot. I'm gonna get in my feels. Well, let's start at the beginning, man. I always like to kind of start out. What was your first job that you ever had?
Yes. It had to be, man, I mean, we go way back, 13, 14, had to be in that ballpark. My dad said, you want to start earning some money and buy whatever you want. We're going to find you a way to do it. I got a lawnmower. You want to start mowing some lawns. So neighborhood, had 5 or 6 lawns and getting, back then $20, $25 a lawn, it took me 2-3 hours to do it, man. But I remember one of the first times I had cash and rolled down to the drugstore where we could get candy. Freaking bought as much candy as I want. I'm like, it's my money now. I can do what I want with it. It's my first taste of true freedom.
Taste of candy and freedom. I love it.
I mean, it's the little stuff, right?
I just had this image of like little TJ walking into a gas station for like $20, buying all the Snickers they have.
Absolutely, absolutely. We grew up with. I had a lot of a family and a lot of sisters, and so I mean, for us to have extra money for stuff like that, it just wasn't there,
Wow.
So the idea of freedom, which is I think a big driver for entrepreneurs, is a pretty intoxicating thing once you taste it.
Yeah. So humble beginnings. I actually started out mowing lawns too. My dad is a pastor, and I remember that was such an accessible. I feel like it's such a good accessible way to get your feet wet. Yeah. Starting, you kind of own your own little business. If you just have a lawnmower. My dad had, all the church members. I would just mow their lawns on like Saturday. Oh, it was awesome.
Easy access to
because he marketed jobs, me.
Right?
He just
get this guy out of here and give him something
it was basically like get him to work. I had too much extra energy. That's awesome, man.
Well, I always thought, you get exercise.
Yeah.
So you're getting a workout.
Yeah.
You're getting tan in the summer.
Yeah, that's true.
And you're getting paid for it. I mean, it's like overall, it's a pretty good gig.
I love it. That's awesome. Well, take me down that kind of career path. When did you kind of know that you were an entrepreneur? Did it start mowing lawns, or did it start later on, or when did you say that?
Yeah,
did you found that out?
Good question. It definitely was later. I grew up. My dad was an entrepreneur, so he remodeling. He's one of those guys that you wanted around. If you had anything broken, he probably knew how to fix it.
Really?
And he was a handy guy of all handy guys. So having him around, though, I grew up in a big family, and just money was tight. It was a one income household. So I grew up probably thinking wrongly that was not what I wanted, because we just grew up tight, and I was like, man, I don't want to grow up that way. So in my mind, working for the man was the way, maybe the answer not to grow up that way.
Right.
So when I graduated college, I got a job with corporate America, and I spent 7 years out of college working for corporate America.
Wow.
It was in those 7 years working for corporate America that I found that was not my calling.
Yeah. Yeah.
It took all of that to happen. I just didn't, in my mind, I was like, I just want to, work, go home, and then do whatever I want. I don't want my job to follow me,
Yeah.
Because I saw for him that job was there all the time.
Yeah.
And that's a different mentality. It's a different lifestyle.
Totally different.
Yeah.
Totally different. What kind of entrepreneur? You said your dad. What kind of work did he do? It was just remodeling and stuff?
Remodeling. I mean, everything. It was plumbing. It was electrical. It was painting. You name it. I actually got my expertise in the painting industry from him, because I worked for him for a number of years. And what's interesting is, and I'm a big faith guy, man. I truly believe that as you walk down the course of life, that you are given things along the way that are part of your journey, whether you know it or not. And I was given that at an early age.
Yeah.
And little did I know that down the road, 10, 15 years down the road, I would rely on that gift for what I had coming later. And that painting is one of the jobs that I have started here locally and that I've relied on as a base income source, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
That's a little detour, but it's amazing, those little things that happen and you look back on life and they hang on.
Oh man, and I can relate to that so much, because it's funny you mentioned you had that 7-year period being in corporate America, being somewhere that you didn't feel like you were fit, but you might have still gained skills and education, but you gained perspective more than anything to know for sure that that's not what you wanted to do. And I think that a lot of people are very quick to discount that grind of just going ahead and doing what makes sense right now to build the foundation. And I know that we're going to talk about that a little bit more about your painting business and stuff. But for me, it was very similar. I mean, and I'm a creative as well, kind of in my heart. Grew up doing video production and stuff like that, moved to Nashville and kind of pursued that, worked in recording studios and worked for a country artist for a little bit. I have all these skills that when I got into like real estate and sales and the entrepreneur world, I thought I didn't gain anything from it.
Yeah.
And I find myself using all of these little skills that I picked up along the way have all culminated to exactly how I approach and do my business right now. I mean, all of it. So nothing's wasted, I think, has been a theme in my life, big time. And it sounds like that's also ring true for you as well, which is really, really good
That's
to see.
cool, man. I think more of us have that story than maybe let on. If you look back, and isn't life that way, that oftentimes as you traverse the journey of it, that little things that you think meant nothing really do come back and become a huge part of who you become.
Yeah.
And leaning into that. I mean, when you asked me to kind of jump in on this, and you were like, entrepreneurs podcast, what about that do you know or feel like you could share?
Yeah.
We talked on the phone. And I was like, man, one of the biggest things for me is don't quit your day job. There's a reason that you have a job. I feel like in today's world, a lot of people lean toward immediate gratification in their career, that they should be inspired 100% by what they do, and that if they don't, they shouldn't be doing it. Right? I mean, and it's a different age.
Yeah.
The millennial age is very different than when I grew up, and it's interesting to kind of traverse some of the mentality today, because I didn't grow up thinking that way. I grew up in an age where it was, show me the job and I'll show you the effort as long as you show me the money. And as long as you show me the money, I'll show up. You don't have to pat me on the back. I'll be there. I'll rock it out, you know?
Oh, man. Yeah.
It's a little different today.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and so I'm technically a millennial.
You're like,
right?
Listen here, man.
hey, leave us millennials alone for a second. We get crapped on all the time. No. I'm just kidding. No, but and I don't take offense to that at all, because
thank you.
100. I can't speak for all millennials.
Like, that's right. Same for me on my generation.
I really appreciate what you said about that. I think we're in a culture today, especially with social media and the ability for information to disseminate so incredibly fast, that information can go fast, inspiration can travel really, really fast, but it's also very fleeting, because we're so inundated with these amazing stories, and we're inundated with sensationalism, and all the stuff that kind of gets your attention on your phone to keep you there is not the real stuff that keeps you motivated.
That's right.
Regularly in your business. So when did you told me the story that the painting career has funded kind of your creative pursuits and your other businesses. Don't quit your day job. Was that who told you that? Like, where did that influence come from?
That's experience telling me that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, bottom line, I've had this painting business for almost 20 years now here locally in Wilmington. Started it out thinking it was a short-term fix because of a need for income, a career. I jumped into painting because I knew how to do it. I was taught it. And then for a while I was like, man, I'll find one of these sales jobs locally. Or so, medical, whatever, everyone's doing it. That should be easy to get in somewhere. But I found that I took a lot of pride in what I did. There was a lot of drive that I had in making sure that things were excellent for my customers, that how I executed there was a lot of pride in just producing something that I could put my name to. The business has my name on it. I originally, when I put, when you start a business, you got to figure out, I need a business card. Well, I need a logo. Well, I need what's my name going to be, And I was like, man, there ain't no better thing than to put my own name on it if I'm going to take pride in what I'm going to do. So I did that, but still thought it was a short-term, thing. And I always had, being a creative like yourself, photography's been one of my jams. I mean, from an early point, I was like, man, this would be really cool to do. I always just wanted to learn photography. But I didn't think it was something I could attain. But what's cool is I had a job that gave me funding to get my first camera. And that is where it all began. Yeah. And along the path, there was no reason to give up that job. When I first started to get good in photography, there was a coined phrase that a lot of mostly wedding photographers would use, but really photographers in the whole industry. And they would coin essentially saying, when are you going to go all in? When are you going to become a full-time photographer and quit your other jobs? And it was something that everyone said. There was a lot. I went to different conferences, and they just kind of throw around this idea that you're not committed if you don't give up something else and go all in. And part of me was like, why would I go all in when I have another good thing going? It was a good wrestling time, I think, in my life to make sure that I had in my mind an idea of where I was headed and an idea of what my career or my life I wanted it to look like. I've since come to realize, and in today's world now, it's flipped the other way. Multiple sources of income is the new key phrase. Yeah. Making sure that you have multiple ways to do what you do. Why would anyone do just one thing in today's world, right? So all of a sudden, it's interesting that as time changed, that those coined phrases have flip-flopped. I'm glad I kept the painting. There are weeks even now that I do I jump on jobs with my guys and we do full painting weeks.
Yeah.
And then there's other weeks that I rely on them to rock and roll excellence at the jobs while I am photographing all week long.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for me, I think it's fun. And I think an entrepreneur, most of us and those out there who are entrepreneurs, you've got this kind of insatiable appetite to go, you know, it just is there. It makes you kind of want to chase whatever's in front of you. And it doesn't have to be your regular job. It could be a different job. It's kind of fun to do multiple things. And I think a true entrepreneurial spirit is almost a drive at not just one thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I really appreciate what you said about there being no reason to give up that job. I think that's a really, really powerful idea. You mentioned getting pressured from other photographers, people in the industry. How do you deal with that pressure from others that are like, when someone says, oh, you got those multiple business, like, why was it a no-brainer to not quit that job in the beginning?
Good question. Yeah. I mean, number one, the money.
Yeah.
I can't deny
absolutely.
it. Rocking a painting business, if you're good, if you show up, I mean, as easy as it is to return calls, to communicate with customers, and to show up, not many people do it.
Wow.
So just being able to do that sets you on the bar, like way up here. And just, I mean, that's, you know, so for me, I mean, why give up that, you know?
Yeah.
Even though, and hey, let's face it, painting is not the most glamorous lifestyle, but we all see, anyone living in Wilmington can see that the trade industry here is one of the most vibrant industries that we have. There is so much demand for each of the trades to the point that there's not enough of them. That people are hiring people who don't even know how to do things just because they say they can do them. We come in after multiple people on different jobs in the painting industry that they have truly messed up the job, done it wrong, not professionally, and I have to come in and we clean it up and do it professionally. That happens constantly. Every year I have multiple jobs that we're doing that too. So then that's kind of the flip side. It may not be glamorous, but man, putting in, you know, some of our jobs actually are kind of glamorous, and some of our customers are very glamorous.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's kind of fun, you know, to be able to stand on a reputation that's solid like that and show up. And that's something that takes time to build. I think one of the biggest things about being an entrepreneur versus being, you know, having I call it working for the man. Hey, it's a coin phrase. It doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Truly, I believe that not everyone can be an entrepreneur. Not all of us are called to that, and that's not bad. No. There's nothing wrong about that. You know, I have friends, I have family, I have people in my own family that are not meant to be entrepreneurs. And they're good. They go to their jobs and they're happy to get their paycheck, and they go home and they have no responsibilities beyond that. And they're good with that. And that's good for them. I applaud that for them. I found I couldn't do that. The difference now is that instead of working the job I had in corporate America, I'm working 4 times as much as an entrepreneur, but it's the most rewarding place I have ever found myself.
Absolutely.
And that's a huge difference, you know, for me, that it's worth the effort to gain the freedom and kind of what you alluded to, that soul place. Because once your soul comes alive, once you have something that I think truly brings out the life in you and you touch that, a spark hits, you can't really turn around. Nothing else will work for you in life. Like, you have to chase it. That's what photography has been for me. It's a spark that started and I couldn't stop. I had to go, and I had to be smart about how I did that. That's why I kept the painting business.
Exactly. Oh man. So there's so much good stuff in there that unpack. It's just insane. I'm sitting there taking notes. I'm like, I just want to listen. This is awesome. One thing that's kind of frustrating is to hear, and is the fact that some people would think that the painting business is not glamorous, right?
Okay.
Like, I think it's because there's,
maybe it's
the
one of my things. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I think because you're creative, and and we've both been in the production world, and there's an emphasis on aesthetics and optics. The cool part about that, and why I think that it is something we should be glamorizing that more today, because that's something you could start out with zero money and start doing.
Yeah.
So I think for the entrepreneur, the young entrepreneur that's listening to this and listening to TJ, and they're like, oh, I heard TJ's gonna be on the podcast and I follow him because of photography. To hear you talk about how you built the foundation to get there, I think is going to be way more important of a path for that person to get to their photography career than to start out with nothing and go all in on photography.
Yeah.
From right at the beginning. I think that is a very, very, very important part. And I think the entrepreneurial part of you that really stands out is you identified a need, something that was in demand. It didn't matter if it sparked your soul, because at the beginning, sparking your soul doesn't pay your bills. It doesn't. You can't. Yes. It doesn't feed you every day to spark your soul. And there's people that get up every single day and do jobs that they hate for the rest of their life, and it sucks. But sometimes you have to just do what you got to do. And I think at the very baseline, I think you need to define, what do you got to do? What are your bills? What are those baseline requirements? How are you going to get that done before we talk about jumping into that spark?
That's right.
And diving into throwing your whole life, throwing a potential business opportunity that you've already cultivated, like a painting business, and letting that die by the wayside over time if you're not nurturing that anymore. And we might be inspired of it, but it doesn't mean you can live in inspiration 24/7 either.
Right. That's right.
That's what I've been starting to learn, getting to that point.
Well, and so in what you do, because you're a creative, you don't do creative things all the time.
Yeah.
Does the fact that you don't do them all the time allow you more creativity when you do?
I would say absolutely. Absolutely it does.
It's a balance, right?
It's 100% a balance. How do you managing inspiration is kind of like a phrase that I've been kind of coming back to over the last year. I heard this podcast. Do you know who Mr. Beast is?
I've heard the name.
Okay, so Mr. Beast is a prolific YouTuber, probably he's like the number one YouTuber, like of all time in terms of subscribers, stuff like that. He's a young guy. He's only like, I don't know, late 20s, and he's from North Carolina. But he does I listened to him on a podcast, and he talked about sourcing inspiration, but being intentional about it, where his craft, making YouTube videos, before he would do anything at all, he would watch like hours of just other people's YouTube videos, whatever's successful. He had to manage his own inspiration. He had to source his own inspiration and be intentional about where he gets that, how he gets it. It's not just something that he was just walking through life and randomly stumbled across. How do you manage your inspiration for your photography business, and how does that ebb and flow kind of happen in your life?
Yeah, sure. No, good question. It kind of along the lines of what we're talking about. I mean, I love the fact that I have the painting business, because I don't want to rely on the creativity of what sparks my soul 100% for my income. Because if that were to happen, I feel like I would take less pride, not less pride, but I would have less inspiration in it. If that makes sense.
That's so funny, because it's so counterintuitive to what we typically hear in that soundbite, because you would hear, when I hear you say that, I could see someone with the wrong mindset saying, well, if you don't want to be inspired all the time, why aren't you doing that? If it's not inspiring you totally all the time, what would you say to that person?
Well, so if I was a full-time photographer, which I pretty much do full-time.
Sure. Yeah, right. You're multiple.
But I don't have to do it full-time. So with photography, I want to go and shoot for fun. Not having to rely on the fact that I'm shooting full time and having to edit for business. So again, I shoot a ton for business, but I also have time in my life to shoot for fun. And my other business allows me that time because it's bringing in funding, so I don't have to book myself 100% of the time with photography jobs. So I can do the photography I love to do, like you're droning. I'm a big drone guy. I love getting aerials. A lot of the shots, the landscape shots that we have that in this office that I put up are from times that I was out enjoying shooting for me.
Man, I think you nailed it. That is such an important thing that gets lost is you wouldn't be doing the same quality of work if you didn't enjoy it or you were forced to do it. Like you had to do it as well. Yeah. And so I think, and I always try to like take what, my guests say and try to like package it and look at it from the perspective of a young entrepreneur who hasn't got into this yet. You think that, hey, I found something that I love. You hear all the time, find something that you love, they love and you're good at, and do that.
Run it.
And run that only and be, but if you don't have the base, and this is where entrepreneurship and financial literacy and budgeting and managing your foundation is really, really hand in hand, because you can have all of the risk tolerance in the world. You can bet on yourself. You can be ready to do anything in the world. You have all the inspiration in the world, but if you don't have that firm base, that foundation, you're set up for failure right off the bat. And also, especially if you're in a creative field, every client's different, every challenge is different, and there's creative ways to get through or help them understand and educate and inform. I think because we have social media and TikTok and Instagram where we're seeing people's faces, we're hearing their voice, we're seeing their inflection a lot more, I think that people really pick up on inauthenticity a lot faster than they used to. Even in your photos, same thing. The reason why your photos are phenomenal is because I can tell you're having a good time, you're passionate, you're trying new things, and you're truly having fun doing it, which is why you stand head and shoulders above the rest. But none of those people would know that, again, you're standing that high because you've had the foundation of financial security from an already successful business. That is very much a part of all of your entrepreneurial story.
The big circle. Yep. I like to liken it, and maybe it's a better way. I think entrepreneurship, a good way to look at it, and maybe for some of the younger entrepreneurs thinking about it out there, instead of thinking,
whoever,
it's flying by. Life is flying by faster than I can even imagine. Trust me. Every day I'm floored by, just where I'm at on that process, but I digress heavily. I liken it, if you will, instead of thinking about a job versus your dream. A job versus your dream, think about it as my empire. And if you're building an empire, it takes many things to build an empire. You need all the things. It's not just one thing. And if you look at any successful entrepreneur, if you really sat down with them, they have their hands in multiple things. They may be known for one thing, but I guarantee 110% that they have their hands in multiple things. And that's why I love, in a lot of ways, that a coin phrase today is multiple income sources, because it is a smart way to do life. If you are building, and I often say the Drechsel empire, it's a fun phrase to use, but it also, for me, is a very personalized way for me to look at what I'm doing and say, all these things are part of what I'm doing. All these things are part of me. And therefore, as I dive into one, it affects the bigger picture as much as I dive into the other. And so it's important for me to make sure that I'm dialed in and that my heart and soul and mind and faith and body are all working together to the best of their ability, because they're affecting everything of that whole empire that I'm putting together. And really, all of us are. We all have our personal empires. We just get to decide what they look like.
I really like the image of growing a personal empire, because an empire encompasses a lot of different facets. I mean, so many different things. How did you find people that surround you? Who around you kind of help make that happen?
Well, I do. Yeah, I believe that most of us are given people in our world that answer questions for us, whether we know it or not.
Yeah,
we might have to listen, and some of us don't listen. But those people are around. And if they're not, I think it doesn't take much asking to find people in our worlds that do. Now, thankfully for me, I've had some amazing friends. My cousin Pete is probably one of my biggest drivers when it comes to my drive for my career. We very much come from the same blood in terms of being driven, wanting to build the best we can for our futures, for our families, and for the world around us. Phenomenal guy when it comes to his outlook on that. Man, you want to have you've heard it said, you become the people you hang around. And it's true. Who you spend time with is very important to who you become. And if you're not conscious about that, you're going to find the opposite results happening for you.
It'll happen. It's like it's a slow. What's that the old adage about the lobster and the boil? You don't even know it's happening until you're pretty much done. I mean, well done, maybe in that scenario. But no, that's been so true. When I started auditing the people in my life that I was around, and that's everybody. Not that's like a lot of people might think when you say the people that you surround yourself with. I've always thought, when I was younger, I thought about that as who my friends with, like who are in my friend group. But that wasn't necessarily the truth because I didn't see all my friends on a regular basis. Yep. It might be the people that I work with that I walk into and have conversations with every single day, or these different strategic people. And I would realize that if I'm just in the same airspace as somebody, I can be as bright and intelligent and motivated and driven if I want. If I'm sharing airspace with someone who's the complete opposite, I might have a positive effect on them, but they're also going to have a negative effect on me. Yeah. And that's going to balance out over time. And I remember very specifically, I was in my sales job, I was in the car business before getting into, so I worked in the music industry, and I had the 2 years where I did sales. I was in Nashville and I did car sales.
Really?
I was kind of in
Oh man.
This is some people don't know this about me. Some people do, but that was the job that platformed the move to real estate. Really. And so it was my first sales job ever. And I got really good I found out that I was really good at sales. I had the temperament for it. I was just crushing it. I became kind of one of the number one salesman in like 3 months. And I was like the number one guy for pretty much every single month for like 18 months straight. Got like a corner office, got to the point where people were coming in to see me. I was no longer standing out in the lot. Like I felt like a big dog. But I also realized that we had 15 to 18 salesmen. And if when I say the word used car salesman, like you're thinking of somebody.
Yeah.
And you're right about who that is. I guarantee you. And I found that I was like fighting that connotation all the time, which, and I didn't mind that part because I found that my sales ability came from my genuine excitement to solve someone's problem and to be with them through that. That's what got me pumped. But you're going back to this people you surround yourself with. Every day I was around these other salesmen that just didn't care. They just wanted to make a quick buck and would really just say just unethical stuff. Yep. And I wanted to distance myself with them, but I was in the same building. So there's no way that if I stayed in that dealership with those people for another 4 to 5 years, there's no way that I would not pick up some of their traits. Sure. As strong as I think that I am, I think that I have to admit there's no way that wouldn't have that effect on me. So, and that's something that now in real estate and being a business owner, I've been able to control that more because I'm not forced to go to this same building. For someone who's listening, if you're in your job and you're thinking, I hate all my coworkers, there might be a good reason. But I guess what I would challenge you to think is, if you do, is there a way to expose yourself to more mentors or people that are kind of bringing you up, whether it be seeking those people out, getting coffee, shadowing, on job, whatever you can. You just need to get in their airspace. But those people have a lot of effect on who you're going to become.
Totally. Are you a podcast guy?
Yeah.
I know we're doing a podcast.
Yeah, well, I am a podcast guy because we're on one. What kind of question is that? I'm just kidding. No, I am. Absolutely. I try to devour as much as I can.
Every now and then, I've started kind of circulating throughout the week every now and then, like Ed Milet, Lewis House, There's a handful of guys that when you listen to them, it's pretty hard not to get dialed in. Mm-hmm. And if anyone out there is not finding themselves dialed in, that's one of the easiest ways because it's a free way to listen to people who really are dialed in to life, to pursue excellence, to finding the best version of yourself and to chase that version. I think, again, back to my interaction with my cousin, it's chasing the best version of ourselves. We're wanting more for each other. It's not a selfish, well, here's what I got. What do you got? There's a lot of people that treat life that way. Instead of having someone that actually genuinely wants the best for you and wants you to succeed and push yourself to become better, those are the kind of people you want around you. And I tell you another thing, it is not a bad thing to have a little bubble. A little bubble. I would dare say that probably most of the true successful entrepreneurs, and I'm not telling, in Wilmington, there's a lot of people that look on the surface like they maybe got everything together and are successful. I'm talking about the true if you got into their books. Usually the ones that you get into their books are not the ones on the outside that look like they're successful. Millionaire Next Door was a big book back a little ways, and it was about what millionaires truly look like. And most of them had their cars paid off. They were not, that was one of the big ones in that book. But there was multiple things. They bought a car outright. They never made car payments. They had, the same old car. They drove it to the end. Some of the things that none of us ever do, in today's world. But this was some of the key things about millionaires that made them different. They didn't look like they were a millionaire, but they made decisions that got them to be a millionaire, And that's why I always think, man, having a small bubble, finding those right people that inspire you, there's nothing wrong with having just a handful of good people rather than having a ton of people that aren't going to do much for you.
And we're not saying that you can't be friends with people. And that's, I think, the connotation there where people think, well, oh man, do I got to start axing friendships? And stuff? I'm like,
don't get me wrong. But if you're looking at your future and trying to make decisions and you're wanting to be an entrepreneur, you got to make some tough decisions about your drive, about who around you is helping with that drive, who isn't. Again, if you don't want to, cool. Go ahead and go about life the way you want to. But again, we all have choices, and our direct choices benefit or do the opposite to our future. And if we don't make choices based on that, that your future empire, back to our empire, is going to look different based on your decisions today about who you hang out with, about what you do with your money. I mean, about you do with your soul, about your drive, about your dreams. I mean, all those things come together to build that empire that I think we all want. We just don't always think about the decisions to get ourselves there.
I love the empire analogy because it's so true. I was talking with my wife the other day, and I think I was frustrated because I'm like a guy, I want to hang out with everybody all the time. Like I'm just I have like this golden retriever kind of personality, which is like, it can be like really good, but it also can be, there's negative effects to it because I follow fun all the time. But I've learned that my personal battle is discipline and figuring out how to divvy up so that the fun can be sustainable. But talking about the empire, I think I had this realization that because I want to hang out with them, I just can't. I can't because I had to audit my time and really say, like, is this interaction, will this event, will this opportunity get me closer to my goal, or will it be a sidetrack? And also the people around me, I got to the point in my life where you're either, if I'm trying to build something, any of my friends, if I'm trying to build something, you're either picking up a hammer and you're helping me build, or you're just going to stand there and watch me build. But you're either helping me or you're not. I don't have time for it right now. And that sounds so harsh. I feel like such an ass when I say that. And it just basically means that when I'm working, until my work is done, I can't let anyone else's initiatives supersede my own. I can't. And neither can you. Neither can any successful entrepreneur. And I think that I think it can sound harsh, but I think that vision of where you're going has to be so incredibly clear that you don't let someone else's priorities supersede your own.
Sure. And anyone that cares for you is going to respect that.
They should.
The good people will.
The good people will.
Because all of us are chasing our own too. I mean, I have great respect. I always think the people that, anyone that can't respect that has their own stuff they're working through, right? And everyone does. We all do. But man, mutual respect in business is very important. Mutual respect in friendship is very important.
Yeah.
You know?
Huge. Absolutely huge. I want to share a story that I've shared a little bit before, but about a time I was razor thin to giving up on real estate. I'm so big on budgeting now because of this. Long story short, I got the car business. I was getting to the end of the car business. I knew I wanted something new. I knew that I wanted to do sales, and I knew that I had an interest in real estate because I had a few key business mentors that were Keller Williams agents, and they were doing really well with their careers, and they told me that I should do that, and I would do really well. And I was like, awesome, that sounds great. I was at a position where I was like, let's just jump and do it. I really didn't have that chapter in Nashville kind of closed and end. I was making good money. I was also spending a lot of money. Yeah. So the thing is, in the car business, I made double like the most I'd ever made. I spent double the most I've ever spent. So like while my income went up, my expenses went up as well. Sure. And I had a lot of fun, but I just didn't budget really well. And also in the car business, the sales cycle is a lot sooner. Like you sell a car, you get paid on 2 weeks. Real estate, you get into this business and you really should be ready to not sell anything for at least 6 months. You should be minimum, if not mostly, you should prepare for like 9 or even more. Yeah. Budget wise, like I'm talking all your living expenses, you should have that saved. Who's doing that? Absolutely nobody. Absolutely nobody, including this guy. Yes. So I started out, so let's see, I saved, I had saved up 10 grand. And I had 10 grand, and 10 grand was going to be, I just felt like that was just a good number. It just felt good. I had no reason why that number felt good. It was just 5 digits. And I've just never even, at that point, I don't think I ever even had like 5 digits in my bank account at one time. Yeah. And so I was like, 5 grand, that should be plenty. I'll get into Wilmington. I'll take the class. I'll start selling. I'll sell a house and we'll be good. We'll get rolling. Yeah. Well, we moved to Wilmington. Between the apartment and everything, I think we were spending like, it was like $3 grand a month or something, was like our total household outflow. I was like, we got 3 months. I'm gonna be fine. You know, if it's gonna take the average person 6 months, surely it's gonna take me less than 3 because I'm not average. I'm so good at this. But I just totally put myself in a terrible position where we got here and I took the class and I was ready and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to sell a house. And then it was like, now what? Because I was so used to the car business, people came to me and I would close the deal, but I didn't know the whole process of getting that first bit. But I remember it was about 3 months in, I hadn't sold a house, and I just burned through the 10 grand that I had saved up. And we were completely at like, bank account is plummeting to zero really, really quickly. And I remember the first time I didn't have enough money in my checking account to pay our rent. It was the first time in my life that had happened that I remember. Yeah. And I remember I've never felt more like a failure in my entire life. And I've never been one to, I had kind of internally, I've told myself that I'm never going to ask my parents for money or ask anybody for money. And it was just kind of, that was an internal pride thing. It has nothing to do with if your parents support you, you have a support system, that's great. And ultimately I knew that if I really, really, really fell flat, I knew that maybe someone would help me, but it wasn't about that. It was about my pride in myself being able to get through that situation. Sure. I was looking at that checking account. I didn't have enough to cover it. And I think I had a conversation with Kelly and we're like, we were both like driving Uber and stuff and delivering like Uber Eats and stuff too, just to try to get some income. Yes. And it was either do that for like 40 hours straight for like 2 weeks, which was impossible. We just couldn't make up that money in that time. We had to put rent on a credit card for 1 month. Yeah. And I just remember doing that and going, holy cow, I didn't pay rent. I borrowed rent. And then I remember just feeling so much like a failure that I had my first ever panic attack. People have described panic attacks to me before. And as a happy-go-lucky golden retriever guy, that's never happened to me. Yeah. Ever. I've at the best of the worst, I've always just been like kind of happy, smooth, whatever. But this was a time that I really, really felt like this was on me. And my wife had just moved with me and she's looking at me too. This is also the roof over her head, not just mine. Sure. This is on me and it affected more than me. And I remember laying on the ground, started bawling, crying, like I couldn't catch my breath. Yeah. Like, I was tightness in my chest. I didn't even know I was having a panic attack. But I've never been one, like I'll cry out of happiness and overjoy and stuff all the time. But I don't normally cry out of like stress.
Sure.
That was the first time. And it was so incredibly bad. I can put myself kind of in that mentality again, telling that story sometimes. But I remember thinking to myself, laying on the ground, staring at the ceiling, I don't care what happens, but this will never, ever, ever happen again. It is absolutely a non-negotiable. It will not happen again, because if I missed that rent payment and I got evicted or whatever else, that's my name. And I know that property manager doesn't know me, but I know me. And I wouldn't be able to live with myself like 2 years from now, knowing that the only reason I got through is because somebody gave me something.
Yeah.
I didn't do it.
Yeah.
That wasn't me. I didn't do it, if that's the case. It gets me, and while it takes longer, I think that's what you really need. You need to have those moments. And I think you need to revisit those moments and not smooth them over. Keep that as part of your story, because young entrepreneurs, old entrepreneurs, whoever, you're going to hit that point at some point. Now, you may not be laying on the ground of an apartment having a panic attack because you burned through your savings like I did, but you'll have something similar.
Sure.
And I think that it's really important to continue telling those stories and knowing that was ultimately a forging moment where that's a make or break. That's a give up. But if you decide to get through it, I decided because of me. I'm crazy proud of just getting through that just for me.
Yeah, sure.
And take that to the grave. I will still be proud of getting through that moment. And I know that there will still be moments to come that are like that. I think as I get older and, even trying to follow the footsteps of someone like you, setting up your empire, you're slowly playing defense against those moments in your life over time. So you may have one really, really bad one, but you get through that one and the next one, it's not so bad.
You're going to plan well on this one. Yeah. Yeah. Without it. It's a little side note. I grew up really tight family wise, might I mention. And, once I started making money, I've gone through a few tight spots similar to that. And when they hit, I had a similar scenario of being like, all right, how do I not have this happen again?
Yeah.
Quick side note, I have 2 different automatic savings accounts I use. They pull every week a little amount of cash. I don't touch them. They're there as emergency funds. Anyone out there, it's not that hard to put $5, $10. As you do better, more on this little automatic savings. It pulls without you even thinking about it. They're easy to get. You actually even make interest on them. Great way as you become more successful to make sure that you're carefully having little funds that you get into an emergency about are good for. But I tell you, back to those low points, and we're getting a little into life stuff here.
Yeah.
But there's one thing I've always said, that if you don't experience a valley, if you don't know what it's like to be at the bottom of the valley, that you truly, I don't believe, can understand the greatness of being at the mountaintop. If you stay on one even keel of experience in life and try to just hedge all that stuff so that you never have those crappy times hit you, I don't think you can ever experience that mountaintop to the extent that you can if you do. I think we need them. I think we need to know that stuff. I mean, you were alluding to it. We need that stuff so that then we know what it's like when all of a sudden your business is booming. You're happy as all get out. Yeah. You're looking and you've got rent, no problem.
Yeah.
You're talking mortgage now. Got the mortgage happening. You're making the right steps, and you're at the point where you're looking at what you got and you're going, "Thank you, Jesus. I appreciate this happening, and I remember that." If you don't have that, do you really get it?
Even conversely, if everything can't be good all the time either. I mean, you really do. If it's good all the time, you're not going to know that your basis is raised, and that can be, artificial, so to speak. You can be overspending for quite You could be kind of financing, so to speak. So you need that frame of reference. It was just like I can't remember where I heard it. It was a TikTok that I'd scrolled and was someone talking about kind of the highs and lows in life. And one of my mentors, Baxter Cheek, who, I'm really trying to get him on the podcast.
Man, he'll do it.
He keeps telling me he's going to, but I
shot his wedding. Those guys are awesome, man.
He's awesome. Yeah. And he would always tell me, Caleb, it's peaks and valleys, man. You got some days you're on top of the world. You got days that you're in the trough.
Yep.
And I heard someone say, this was a TikTok that came across. Guy said, well, I just want to be happy. I don't want these highs and lows. I'm tired of these really high highs and these really low lows. I just feel like everything's out of control, and I just want to be even keel, and I want to be happy all the time. And the other interviewer was talking with him, and he's like, well, if you ever looked at a heartbeat before, it's up and down.
That's right.
It's up and down.
Yeah.
If your heartbeat was straight across, you're dead.
You're dead.
You ain't doing nothing.
No.
So I think that it's very easy. Entrepreneur training, entrepreneur inspiration, all of this is not just about just a business growing money. It's mastery over your life, yourself, your mind, everything. Because again, and that's going to come with really high highs, and it's going to come with a panic attack every once in a while.
Yeah.
And it's just get ready for it. If you really want to do it and do it right, that is really what it means to be an entrepreneur, is to weather those storms and to get through that.
Yeah.
And they say, calm seas don't make for a good captain.
That's right.
I think something along those lines. That gets me so amped up, because the goal of this podcast has been to tell the real story and to highlight local business owners and to tell their stories, but also to get really, really real and pull back the veil of how did people build their business?
Yeah.
What have they gone through? And to talk about the really high highs, that's what inspires us to keep going, but also talk about the real low lows. Because if we talk about it and we know what's coming, that'll give you power over it. And then at least at least everything, you can come back from all of it.
Well, it's the chase of freedom. I mean, isn't entrepreneurship the chase of freedom? I mean, ultimately we are our own bosses, and it's that intoxication with being able to be your own boss, to not answering to anyone but who's in the mirror. It's a beautiful place to be. And I think to be able to chase it, you have to have a drive and an outlook that is much greater, than you might think, but the reward is that much greater too. So, I love it.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't do anything different.
Yeah. So, okay. What would you say is, going back to a young TJ, maybe he's at year 6 of corporate America and just really starting to get frustrated. Looking back from your 20 years of running a successful painting business, photography business, lifestyle brand, all the things that you're doing, what would you tell that version of yourself?
Well, that version of myself wouldn't be ready to hear
if you would listen.
what I would tell him right now, because he still had to experience a few things, and he had to figure out that wasn't for him.
That's true.
But I truly believe that we all have an intuition in ourselves that we vibe, if you will, in today's world's terms with certain things, and that if you listen to it, I think one of the tough things in life is society gives us so many things to dull those senses, and a lot of us kind of like that stuff, and if you dull your senses, it takes longer for you to get to the person that you were meant to be, and maybe the greatest version of you. So, one of the great challenges, I think, we live in a big port city. There's plenty of things, legal and illegal, to dull your senses. And I think there's a great challenge locally, not just locally, everywhere, but, definitely Wilmington, if we're talking Wilmington, to make sure that, if you want the best version of yourself, that you are at least making sure your mind's sharp and you can think clearly, and that you are aware of the world around you and aware of your heart and the place, inside that you want to go. And if you're able to do that, I think that the good Lord gives us enough brain power and willpower to be able to make decisions based on that, or to find people that can help us with that too. So, the me back then needed to learn corporate America was not for me, but corporate America I also used. I bought my first house with corporate America.
Yeah.
And when I sold it, I paid off all my college loans, and it got me a down payment for my first house in Wilmington.
Amazing.
So all steps are beneficial. Again, all jobs are beneficial. I think the more that we can look at what we're doing and the decisions we're making as that own personal empire, then we can try to make decisions a little more selectively with that in mind, instead of just thinking, gosh, another day at a job that sucks,
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at it like, no, I'm doing this right now because I'm gonna, while I do this, I'm gonna go home later and I'm gonna watch some YouTube videos on this passion that I've got, and I want to start learning something until I can get to the point that what we're talking about, where I can rock another job. And all of a sudden, I mean, I love that you say you've got all the, you had all these jobs. Man, when I was in college, I had 4 different jobs, man. Yeah. For a while, when I was just getting off with the photography business, I worked days running a painting business, and then I worked at my cousin's restaurant bartending at night. I didn't get home till 1 or 2, and I started at 7 in the morning working on painting jobs. I was running myself ragged. On weekends, I went to the beach. The beauty of living here is I went to the beach and I needed that salt therapy for my soul. Man, to dive into that salt water, it's the whole reason I moved here. Yeah. I could be reborn every Sunday that I jumped in that ocean. Yeah. Got a tan, got a couple cold Coronas on that pier, and I was like, all right, let's do it again. Yeah. And man, I did that for years. Yeah. I'm still working nonstop. This is the first year in my career that I'm taking weekends.
Wow. Man, that's wild. But you deserve it.
I deserve it, but that's the price.
That's the price.
To chase, you know? Like if you really want to chase something, you have to make some decisions. It's not like, well, this is a weekend, I'm not going to take calls. I'm not going to take jobs. Yeah. Doesn't work that way.
Yeah. And it's not, I don't think it's when a lot of people hear that, they go, oh, I got to work for 60 hours for 20 years just to be as successful as TJ. Oh my God, that sounds like awful. But it's not, that grind wasn't from trying to be like someone else. That came from a drive where you tapped into, you knew why you were doing it.
That's right.
You didn't just work all the time, even just for a buck. Yeah. Even if you're just working for a buck, what is that doing? What is it? I think it's about being clear on your goals. And if I could summarize, you mentioned that your advice to former TJ. And I really like what you said about, not dulling your senses and being able to receive that, because I think there's so many things that can dull our senses, and then, legal, illegal, but now it even just like on your phone, like I'm finding myself like I call it doom scrolling, which is absolutely nothing. So there's nothing.
We all do it.
That.
It's terrible, man.
We all do it. But I think that one thing that gets missed is when we're talking about entrepreneur or business or growth or mindset, everybody's looking for kind of like that quick little hit of inspiration to change my life. Like I'm going to hear this one thing, I'm going to change my life. But I think what you said is so powerful, is that even if young TJ had heard that, it would have fallen on deaf ears, because his senses were probably dulled to it at that point. He needed to work on getting the foundations of life in order to grow. And that is the actual first step in his entrepreneurial journey, was not starting the business. I think that's the key here. That one of the main messages of this whole podcast is it's not just, okay, we're just gonna make an LLC. You're just gonna make a company. Okay, great. But why are you doing that? How do you stay all this grinding, all this work? How did you manage and keep that clarity on what you were working towards? Has it always been kind of one vision, or has that kind of ebb and flowed and changed over the years? Like what's been that clear vision that's helped you work so hard?
That's a good question.
Did I stump TJ?
I am no.
Dang it! I was
trying to think which direction to go.
Which way to go?
I have a very strong drive in my blood. I get it from my dad.
It's the German.
And I think it's the German. It's the Germans. I'm never. I can go. Yeah. I can go. I want to go. And I think I think anyone that has a business, I mean, I've got multiple friends that run their own businesses, and they're the same. Whether they like it or not, they might not like it, but they're like, you know what, this is my business. So of course I'm hustling at it. You know, this is what I'm going to do to it. I think sometimes it's just, and maybe that's that little piece that we were talking about. Not everyone is an entrepreneur, and that again, that's fine. This isn't a everyone should be an entrepreneur life. You know, it's just not.
It's some almost people the opposite. It's almost like everyone shouldn't be an entrepreneur for that very reason.
Or maybe you just have this little entrepreneur spirit while you have another job, that you have this side passion project or whatever that you've developed, and you love running that little thing. You know, I think it can be all different styles of entrepreneurship when it comes to it. It doesn't have to be you're full in like me, you know, or you. I mean, I think everyone's kind of got their own niche in it. I have found in mine that almost just the hunger for freedom and excitement in life myself has dictated where I've gone with it. Maybe it wouldn't have been photography. Maybe it wouldn't have been painting. Quite frankly, why the heck would I start a boating lifestyle brand locally with my cousin, other than we were like, we're both busy as all get out with our other businesses, but hey, that might be fun. Life is short. Yeah. Why the hell not? Let's try it.
Exactly.
If we only have fun, we win.
Exactly.
If it goes places, we win more.
Great. If it doesn't, great.
We did it.
You did it.
We didn't say what if. We finally told ourselves, we were like, we're going to stop talking about this.
Yeah.
We're going to do it, or we're going to stop talking about it. And we did it because that's just in our blood. I think it's just in your blood to try stuff.
Yeah.
And you're just, if one thing doesn't work and you don't feel like it's jamming, it doesn't mean it's over.
Yeah.
You just keep going.
You know, you said something here that just really, really resonated with me. And I think just kind of like a little light bulb went off in my head just a second ago. And you can think about it, talk about it, but you don't learn until you're doing it. And you just need action is going to be its own inspiration. I mean, if you just get in there and do it, you're going to find inspiration you never even thought of because you have no frame of reference of what that's like until you jump right in and do it. So if you're someone who can't sit still and you're listening to this, you're someone who constantly find yourself following those new ideas or chasing other things. It's not necessarily a bad thing to chase those things. Right. I think it's only a bad thing if you half-ass it. If you so whole ass it, right, and go for it, and then if it fails, you have at least tried it. You have. If it goes down a ball of flames, no one's gonna. I mean, you think all these people have this like negative thought about you? They don't, because they didn't do it. No, you know, and so and then you have valuable perspective that you can take, move on to the next. So it sounds like you've been inspired by, you know, the doing has created that freedom, and you've gotten addicted to that over and over again. Yeah. I'm more of someone that's been fueled by a vision. Like I have a feeling, and it's very feeling based. I'm a very feeling based person. I know what my life could feel like if I was free, totally financially free, location independent. You know, that would be. I can feel that, and I remember. I thought for a while that I lacked clarity on that vision. And this is something that my brokerage hits really, really hard. And Keller Williams does a really good job of this, is really understanding your big why. And I think that some people think that if they don't have a clear, big vision, that they're not going to be successful. And I don't necessarily think that's true necessarily, but I think you need to, whether that vision could be specific to like a job, it could be an accomplishment, it could be whatever else, but it also could just be a feeling. And you've mentioned freedom a bunch. I remember sitting down with one of my business mentors in Nashville, a guy who goes by the name of Z. We call him the sneaker broker. He is an amazing entrepreneur. I wish I could get him on the podcast, but he started out like, in the garage and just doing this on the side. And now he's got like multiple storefronts and he's awesome. And I was asking him, when I was going through this transition here, I always reach out to my business mentors, especially when like there's a big thing coming up, and get his input. And he said, if I can't envision where I want to be in 5 years exactly, like if I can't articulate everything, well, he said, well, who do you want to be around? I was like, okay, well, I could kind of get an idea. I want to be around like maybe these type of people. What do you want to have access to? You know, is there a particular like type of vehicle that I want to be able to drive? Do I want to have owned a home, or do I want to have a investor property? Do I want to have a business? And so the answer was like, yeah, I do want to have that. It may not be clear, but I know that I want something. Sure. So that at least got me into year 2. And then that vision got a lot more clear in year 2. And so my vision has just been kind of refined and clarified over. Yeah. If you're just starting out and you don't have that vision, it doesn't have to be crystal clear exactly. And you don't have to stick to it. It's a living, breathing thing, because it's never been about the goal. It's always been about the journey. It's always been about
the movement.
The movement and just the doing. And like you mentioned, that every single day steps and battles that compound over time, you win those each day. And that vision could easily happen then. But it's not just going to be because you have the vision. You got to take actual steps on it every day.
Yeah.
And that's the entrepreneurial journey, I feel like.
Yeah.
In a nutshell.
100%. If you're, I mean, this is a life thing, not just a business thing, but if you ever find yourself, I mean, go through the list: terrible breakup, heartbreak, you know, heartbroken, you know, life gives you that sometimes. Death, you know, family member dies, you name it. I mean, there are so many things that you could go down the list, and if you sit in that moment, it just festers and gets worse. I liken it all the time. Every time I've gone through something difficult in my life, I've likened it to a spring of water. And if we've all seen the ponds where moss has grown over them and they become stagnant and nothing is happening, and it stinks. But then you see the springs. I just got done coming back from Cancun, shooting a wedding down there, and we went to the cenotes. And cenotes are what Mexico has as rivers, is underwater rivers. So there's caverns and caves, and you can go down and swim in them, but water is moving. They got little pockets of light that comes in, and it's bright blue. It's crystal clear, the clearest waters that you'll ever see. The water's moving.
Yeah.
Movement clears things. I've always likened every terrible scenario, and you can play this on business too. If you're in a tight time, movement clears it, man. Movement, doing something. It doesn't matter. Do something, you know? Do something. There are so many jobs out there right now. If anyone wants a side job, there's multiple side jobs everywhere you turn out there. Yeah. No one's hungry anymore. No one wants to work. There's plenty of stuff. Movement. If you're going through a breakup, you know, sometimes just moving, go run on the beach. Goodness, that will do wonders for, you know? I mean, it is amazing how movement and not sitting and being stagnant is good for the body, soul, heart, everything. It's good for business. And good for business because movement is all encompassing. It's not just your body, but it could be activity in your business too. There's been many days when I'm been down, or I may have lost like a big sale, or, you know, felt bad that you just got to do the activities. Just doing the activities on the days, even when I'm really, really uninspiring, even that, just moving something forward. I have always known that regardless, as long as I'm moving something forward, I'm making progress somehow. Yeah. And if I'm not, even if that progress isn't targeted in one direction, or if it's the best, it's better than doing nothing. Yeah. It's better than doom scrolling, you know, or whatever else that you could be doing that's just wasting your time. And I'm not saying that you can't entertain yourself and have fun. Sure. But it's like, if you want to move out of that, you know, you don't want to sit in it. Exactly. I mean, that movement helps. Movement helps, man. I didn't know we were going to be getting so like deep on this podcast today. It's a life podcast. It is because business and life and all this is so incredibly connected. Man, you've been such a wealth of information, and I know that I could pick your brain for hours and hours. I've asked every guest this, kind of like, you know, since this is a Wilmington specific podcast, you know, what are some of the things you love about this area that keep you here, and kind of your favorite places like hang out? Where do you have fun here? How do you interact with this? Yeah. You know, what do you love about Wilmington and being here? Well, so short story, I lived in Green Bay, Wisconsin before I moved down here. Oh, man. Frozen tundra, they call it. Jeez. You could go a month in the winter and not see the sun.
That's terrible, man.
I got diagnosed with seasonal effectiveness disorder up there because it's a real thing.
Yeah.
I did have it. And I came down here to visit my cousin. He was running the Oceanic restaurant at the time.
Oh, cool.
And man, he used to let me know while I'm sitting up there in a foot of snow
He's
that there are bikinis on the beach today. Just letting you know that kind of thing happens down here this time of year. Oh, like, you bastard. I hear you, man. But he knew what he was doing. It worked. I finally got down here. I'm a warm-blooded guy. I love the summer. I know we talked about that before we did this. We both have the same thing on that, man.
Yeah.
There's something therapeutic, amazing, and just that salt therapy is one of the most incredible things out there. The ocean's my jam. The water's my jam. I love it. I shoot down at Wrightsville Beach, Fort Fisher all the time. I do sessions down there. Man, I don't even care that I'm working. It's friggin' gorgeous, you know? I mean, it is amazing. I love the ocean. The water is my thing. I love good food. I think, we've gone through COVID and everything else. We've got different restaurants leaving and we got new ones getting ready to come. I think it's going to be exciting to see where Wilmington goes in the food industry. I'm a big foodie. Love great food. It's been a hard few years, I think, in food, but I think it's going to be neat that we're getting word that different people from out of town are coming in and buying restaurants. Yeah. So that means we've got some cool opportunity for good food coming. We can't really, there's not a lot of fight in the growth, but I think there's a way to enjoy the fact that, hey, all of us who live here, there's a reason we love it. Can we blame anyone else for not wanting it too?
Absolutely.
This is good stuff, Yeah. I mean, I love it here. I have a daughter here. She's 5, and I'm here. I'm not stuck. I'm very happy to be raising her here. This is amazing.
Oh man, Wilmington's it's been amazing too. I don't see myself really ever leaving.
Yeah.
We found this home base, and the community has been so awesome. There's so many good. There's so much here. There's and we came from Nashville, a huge city, where there's like, if you want Thai food, there's like 20 incredible Thai places within like a few miles. But then like moved out here, and then like there's Indochine, and it's phenomenal. It's like we still got it.
Yes.
You still got it.
Yes.
And like so, any favorite restaurants recently? Any favorite new?
I mean,
restaurants
Ash always does a great job. Origins is phenomenal over on Eastwood. That's one of my faves. If you haven't been over there, oh gosh, man! If you like oysters on the half shell, that's one of my faves. That's very good. Food makes the world go around.
It does, man.
It's one of the things.
Well, absolutely, I know, man. And what would be kind of like if you were to summarize and try to in conclusion wrap everything up in a nutshell, your message to kind of young entrepreneurs, what would it be? Don't quit your day job.
I believe in don't quit your day job. Use it to fund your future.
Yeah.
And we can even say don't quit your day jobs. I mean, if you're just hungry, you will find greatness in life. Keep that day job. If you have a dream, use that day job and the time there to fund the pursuit of your dream. If that dream's in your heart, it's going to stay there. It's not going to go away. And you're going to have it. Like some people say, well, I have enough energy. I don't have enough energy for that. I'm working 8 hours a day. If it's in your heart, you have enough energy for it. If you're not meant for it, then it's probably not meant for you. You're not going to have that energy. I believe anyone that you have a dream, you're going to find a way. You're going to keep chasing it. So if it's in there, awesome. If it's not, don't worry. Maybe something else is, keep moving. Don't let that water get stagnant. And we all are building an empire of our own, whether we know it or not. Do it intentionally, and you'll have that much better of an empire later.
You heard it here first, the Wilmington Entrepreneur Podcast with TJ. Man, that is awesome. You got some amazing stories, some incredible perspective. And I think any entrepreneur, young photographer, I think would be a fool not to follow you and to watch you and to keep tabs on you and just to learn from you. I mean, just being in your airspace, your outlook, your drive, your passion, your energy is contagious. And I know that you've spread that to many people besides just me, even just today, so I'm pumped to have you on. How can people how can people find you, and how could they hire you for photography, painting? What else? Where do people go to find you?
So Drechsel Photography, Drechsel. Again, the Germans, they throw a bunch of consonants in there. It's hard to find me. But if you do a little search on that, I don't know if we, once we post this out, I'm sure we'll make sure we get some tags on there and stuff for my stuff. But man, happy to help and be able to again, freeze time for anyone out there. A great joy in photography. Paint your house, a great joy in painting. Or if you're into boating lifestyle, we've got the Bow Candy brand, which we have some phenomenal summer's about here now. We're getting ready.
Absolutely. How can they find you on social? What's the best spot
for which one?
Any of it, man. You got? Is it? What's the? It's
well,
E. Or do you like it?
Yeah. I mean, my main social on Instagram is TJ Drechsel, Drechsel photography. And then from there, you'll find I've got 4 other pages. And then I also have Bow Candy USA is on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. My name, Drechsel Photography. Bow Candy's on there. Drechsel Professional Paintings on Facebook. So I'm all the places that you would be scrolling.
There you go. Good. Well, reach out to this man for any of those needs for sure. TJ, you're awesome, man. Thank you for coming on the podcast, sharing your perspective. Again, you're such an inspiration, I think, to young business owners. Anyone who could make their career look like yours, I think they would be foolish not to take those steps and to follow your footsteps. So thank you for coming on the 4th official Wilmington Entrepreneur podcast, man. You're trailblazing.
Pleasure, brother.
And I appreciate you so much.
Love your energy, man.
Well, thanks so much, man. I can't wait to get this one out there. And again, if you like this episode, we're on Spotify and Apple Podcast. If you can subscribe or download, that means a ton. It really helps out with the metrics. If you're on YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe. But all the interaction, the engagement really means a lot. And we appreciate all the young entrepreneurs and those who are even just curious and what's going on, just listening. So TJ, appreciate it so much. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for the next podcast here soon. Dude,
sweet.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.